go back a long way. The 2008 Parliament, we really miss you there. Distinguished corporate leaders, PCB Board of Directors, my friend Menaz Aziz, colleagues from the development sector, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor to be here at the Corporate Philanthropy Award ceremony. And this is an event that not only recognizes and celebrates the generosity of Pakistan's corporate sector, but it also provides a space for a much needed conversation on organizing philanthropy in Pakistan. Adding to the conversation today is the Corporate Philanthropy Survey, which was just launched 2023-2024 as one of PCP's flagship initiatives. This survey provides the much needed evidence-based insight into the scope, trends and impact of corporate giving in Pakistan and informs how Pakistan's corporate sector is stepping up to make a difference, showcasing best practices that can inspire others to follow. Indeed, with the dearth of data on corporate philanthropy trends, even in the government's own regulatory institutions, this report is much needed. The data in this report will help policymakers, corporate leaders, and civil society organizations better understand the dynamics of philanthropy and guide us to better policies. Over the past 2 decades, PCP has built a credible institutional framework for promoting transparency, accountability, and excellence in the non-profit sector and corporate giving sectors, to the extent that the government tax exemptions are contingent on PCP reporting and certification, and besides presenting us with the state of philanthropy in Pakistan. And this really makes PCP central to the non-profit sector debate and policy and so on. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan unfortunately fares poorly in many rankings in the world, including human development, gender equality. The Human Development Index was cited by Zafar Khan Saab, but unfortunately the WEF report ranks us as the last on gender equality. Out of 148 countries, Pakistan was ranked 148 this year. However, surprisingly enough, as stated earlier in the discussion, despite being a financially stressed country, it leads in giving. The country has presented groundbreaking traditions of philanthropy. Some estimates suggest that Pakistanis donate approximately 240 billion, roughly 1.5 billion annually, to charity, representing nearly 1% of the country's GDP. In a recent ranking, again cited earlier, Pakistan was placed at number 17 in a World Giving report. And there were 3 indicators in this report. One is helping a stranger, the second was donating money, and the third indicator was volunteer. And Pakistan topped all 3, and so that is really something that is very comforting to all of us. Really, I think we should flaunt it, we should use it, the government should really take it as the data on which to build the philanthropy architecture. And Pakistan has presented role models too. I'm not sure there are towering figures like Dr. Adib Rizvi elsewhere in the world. Another towering philanthropist, Abdul Sattar Eidi, not among us, but he's still, his structure is there. His son leads that system, and of course, now Ramzan Chipa, who they have taken philanthropy to new levels in Pakistan. But the story of giving is actually the story of people of Pakistan. And eventually it is the ordinary citizens, rich and poor, the haves and have-nots both, who contribute in an exemplary way. I am a witness to this. I recall the 2022 floods in my constituency in Kharagpur, when huge swathes of land and villages were underwater for days and for weeks. When the emergency struck, people lost their land, their animals, and even their homes in one go. The first to respond to the people's enormous loss was not the government. It was not even the public representatives like myself, nor even the ever-ready district officials. It was actually the people. The neighbors next door, the relatives, the friends, the community, even the landlords and the zamindars opened their doors, their homes, their kitchens, and their coffers to the displaced and the dispossessed. I'm not sure if this has been documented by PCP, but this was an actual fact. The emergency assistance that was the people of Pakistan, for at least 2 weeks, they sustained the losses, the colossal losses of the people, and it was phenomenal. So I think it is, a case study for PCP to follow on how people, those who did have and those who did not have, helped when the government emergency assistance was not coming. However, even with all these amazing role models, charity in Pakistan, both impressive and large scale, needs direction and it needs form. Pakistan continues to face complex development challenges, economic instability, and not just economic instability, but at the same time economic stabilization, steered by multilateral institutions like the IMF, have actually led to increase in poverty. Climate-induced disasters, social inequalities, and of course a limited fiscal space for welfare spending, which makes the role of private giving crucial, central, and critical. But it now needs to graduate from random and spontaneous to organized and documented, from ad hoc to what is called strategic philanthropy, where businesses align their social investments with their core values, national priorities, and sustainable development goals. The corporate sector, with its resources, its expertise, its organizational capacities and networks, is uniquely positioned to make lasting impact by innovating philanthropy, by building partnerships with the government, the civil society, and the communities at the grassroots level, and by organizing philanthropy that can potentially supplement the government in contributing to national development and the human development challenges that Pakistan faces. Although corporate philanthropy, particularly the oil and gas sector and the banks, have emerged as significant actors contributing billions of rupees to support causes ranging from education, health, poverty alleviation to climate resistance and skill development, corporate philanthropy in Pakistan has yet to realize its full potential. And the report today was, in many ways, it was comforting, but we can also see the glass empty. We had a similar kind of data which was shared to us in the committee, and there, like Parliament heads had a lot to say on this data. The SCCP had to take a lot of, had to hear a lot from what the committee had to say. So there are 2 perspectives of looking at it, and while the listed companies and those who are contributing fully, and we were also told that there's making companies. I think that today, I don't know, when the awards are announced, there were some loss-making companies that were giving more than 1% in corporate social responsibility. But there were companies that were making huge, galloping profits, and they were nowhere to be found on the map of giving. So Pakistan really has to realize its full potential in corporate philanthropy yet. Perhaps the most fundamental issue is lack of institutionalization. Many companies approach philanthropy as an ad hoc activity rather than integrating it into their core business strategy. This results in fragmented efforts that fail to address systemic social challenges or create sustainable challenge. The regulatory environment presents another significant barrier. While tax incentives exist for corporate giving, they are often insufficient to motivate substantial philanthropy. The Minister is here with us, and I hope that today he'll make some announcements that create a structure for incentives that would actually double what we have here. The 24 billion can double if it is sort of linked with some kind of tax breaks for the corporate sector, and I think the corporate sector would really welcome spending on the people directly and then getting some tax breaks. So that is something that we also discussed in our committee when we were discussing my law. I'll just talk about that in a bit. So additionally, the absence of a comprehensive national CSR policy framework means that the corporate philanthropy lacks clear direction and alignment with the national development priorities. Public skepticism about corporate motives often diminish the social impact of philanthropic initiatives. When companies fail to communicate transparently about their giving or appear to prioritize publicity over genuine social benefit, they reinforce the skepticism. And another critical challenge lies in the capacity constraints of both corporations and their non-profit partners, or a disconnect between the two. Many companies lack the expertise to design and implement effective social programs, while numerous non-profit organizations struggle with governance, financial management, and impact measurement. And I think PCP can play a very important role in actually connecting the non-profit, the NPOs, with the corporate sector. Because if they don't, then the corporate sector, and many of these companies are family owned, they'll create their family NPOs. And there's nothing wrong with creating the family NPOs. But I think that the general non-profit sector can really benefit from the corporate sector programming if these partnerships and systems are created. The other thing I want to point out is geographic disparities in corporate giving, which is another challenge. Corporate philanthropy tends to concentrate in urban centers where major businesses operate, neglecting rural areas. So it was these gaps that led me to prepare and present a private member's bill on aligning corporate governance, social responsibility, and strategic spendings. I was at an event like this 2 years ago where another organization was giving out these corporate awards, and I promised that I would actually work on a systemic way of aligning or streamlining corporate social responsibility, and I have presented a bill in the Parliament which the Minister, the Ministry of Finance has some comments on it, and the SECP, they're quite reluctant, and there are many, many things that we are debating. One of the main things that this bill says is that the CSR, I have presented a bill that says the CSR should be mandatory, should be 1% after tax profits, but it should be mandatory. And the government, of course, disagrees. They're saying the investment climate and the businesses, reporting losses and so on, the overall economic climate is such that we should not have a mandatory system. And we counter-argue, and the entire committee stands on the ideological side of CSR. And what is the ideological side of CSR? It is that when you make profits, part of the profits should go to the people of Pakistan directly, particularly those that at whose behest the company is making profit. So there is this whole ideological thing behind it. I understand the government's concerns. We will probably come up with a middle of the road thing, but I often, the committee has argued with the government saying that why not give tax breaks to, if there is an issue of losses for and not a good environment for the businesses, why not give them tax breaks? The taxes are phenomenal, and perhaps we should not get into this debate here, but I just wanted to apprise, because this is really a privileged group of people that I want to share the work that is going on in the Parliament. There are often complaints about what the Parliament is doing or not doing, and we're debating the CSR, so I thought I've taken the stage and the opportunity to talk about this law, which is under debate. There are many, many interesting debates within that. If any of you are interested, we could actually also invite you to our dialogue. So finally, one of the things that was under a debate or in the law is the strategic part of giving out the money. So while philanthropy is really wide and there is this tradition of doling out money as rations, I think it's very important that the CSR is more strategic. And one of the things that I would strongly recommend as a chairperson of the Parliamentary Special Committee on Gender Mainstreaming is, of course, to focus on women, inclusion, and so on. And finally, I'll just cut it short because I think I'm taking a long time. I was talking about social entrepreneurship, and also there's a point on technology which I'll skip. So from the policy perspective, I think that the government must recognize the importance of fostering an enable environment for philanthropy. The point about lawmaking is fair, and I think I agree that we need to look at it and streamline the regulation and ensure that it's not duplicated. And I think I also want to suggest that the supply side of non-profit. Most non-profits, especially in the 90s, and many of us have experience of working in non-profit, we were always looking up to international donors to sustain the non-profits. Why has the government of Pakistan, both at the provincial and national level, not thought of catering to the supply side of non-profit? Why have they not made adequate funds available so that the non-profit can deliver social goods to the people, and they could do them in many ways, in better ways? So this is something that I think the government should think of. The other thing that we have not discussed is volunteerism, and volunteerism being the third indicator of the global giving index. Volunteerism is something that in Pakistan is not regulated, not streamlined, not directed. It is there everywhere, but how are we really putting a structure to volunteerism? And that can really do a lot of good to the people of Pakistan if we streamline volunteerism. So finally, as we move forward, of course, Parliament, there's a lot we can talk about the Parliament. Oversight, we play the role of the oversight. Right now we're looking at this bill. And then post-legislative scrutiny. So if there is issue with the laws, if there are duplications, or if there is problems with registering for the NGOs, we can look at it in the committees. And finally, as we move forward, government, corporates and citizens alike must think of philanthropy not as an act of charity, but as an investment in human potential, but also in renewing, reaffirming and indeed strengthening the corporate culture itself. When companies integrate social responsibility into their business models, they are not just giving back, they are building forward. They are creating shared value that benefits both the communities and the corporations alike. Once again, I want to congratulate all the corporate leaders, and I want to thank the PCP for this very, very important initiative that they have taken, and I wish them the best of luck, and if they need Parliament in any way, I'm available both as an individual and of course on behalf of the Parliament and the committee. I'm available for any policy support or any policy input that you may want to give. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable insights. I now request the Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Muhammad Ourangzeb, Federal Minister for Finance and Revenue, to kindly come forward to present the Corporate Philanthropy Awards 2025. I would also like to request Mr. Zafar Rehan, Chairman PCP Board of Directors, and Ms. Shazia Maqsood Amjad, Executive Director PCP, to join the Chief Guest. Corporate Philanthropy Awards are based on a survey of public listed companies, public unlisted companies, and private limited companies under two categories of donations, by volume and as a percentage of profit before tax. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now begin with announcing the top 3 public listed companies by volume of donations. The first award goes to Oil and Gas Development Company. I would request Mr. Ahmed Khatla, MD and CEO, to please come on stage and receive the award.
सर ज़रा बैठ जाएंगे आप बहुत शुक्रिया सर.
The second award goes to Mari Energies Limited, and I would request Mr. Asghar Naveed, Manager ESG and Sustainability, to come on stage and receive the award. The third award goes to Bank Al Falah Limited, and I would request Mr. Akmalan Khattak, Business Head, to please come on stage and receive the award. We shall now announce the top 3 public unlisted companies by volume of donations. The first award goes to Textile Mills Limited, and I would request Mr. Zulfikar Khan, General Manager, Lucky Cement Office, to please come on stage and receive the award. The second award goes to Novatex Limited, and I would like to request Mr. Abdul Razak Diwan, Chairman, to please come on board on the stage and receive the award. Third award goes to Fast Cables Limited, and I would request Major General Ghulam Mustafa Qausar, Chairman, to please come on stage and receive the award. The third award goes to Fast Cables Limited, and we have Mr. Major General Ghulam Mustafa Qausar. We shall now announce the top 2 private limited companies by volume of donations. The first award goes to Barrett Hodgson, Pakistan Private Limited, and I would request Mr. Rashid Bodla, Executive Director, to please come on stage and receive the award. The second award goes to US Denim Mills Private Limited, and I would request Muhammad Saqib, Manager Admin, to please come on stage and receive the award. We shall now announce the top 2 public listed companies for donations as a percentage of profit before tax. The first award goes to KSP Pumps Limited, and I would request Mr. Shaukat Rahman, Head of QHSE and Sustainability, to please come on stage and receive the award.
Hello.
The third award goes to the Searle Company Limited, and I would like Mr. Sarwar Ali Khan, Chief Transformation Officer, to please come on stage and receive the award.
घंटा लग सकता है वो चीज़
We shall now announce the top 2 public unlisted companies for donation as a percentage of profit before tax. The first award goes to Wifaqi Pakistan Limited, and I would request Mr. Zulfikar Khan, GM, Lucky Cement Office, to please come on stage and receive the award. The second award goes to Kani Ceramics Limited, and I would request Zishan Tariq Chaudhary, Advisor Legal and Corporate, to please come on stage and receive the award. Thank you so much. Now, we would also like to acknowledge the companies whose award have been directly dispatched to them. Their names are Muhammad Munir, Muhammad Ahmad Hanani Securities Limited, Proline Private Limited, Qasim Investment Private Limited, Al Riyaz Agencies Private Limited, Al Hamza Flour Mills Private Limited, and Unity Foods Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to request our distinguished chief guest, Mr. Muhammad Aurangzeb, Federal Minister for Finance and Revenue, to please address the gathering.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. ظفر خان صاحب, چیئرمین PCP, ڈاکٹر نفیسہ شاہ صاحبہ, ڈاکٹر عطیات صاحبہ, شازیہ احمد صاحبہ. It's a real pleasure to be here at this annual event which celebrates a defining characteristic of our nation, which is the spirit of giving. Last time I attended this event, I think a couple of years back, or 3 years back, I was here actually in Karachi as a private sector representative. And it's a great honor, Dr. Khan Sahab, to come back here when I'm in public service. So as the finance minister at various forums, I'm asked to talk about the economic recovery, where we are in terms of macroeconomic stabilization, where do we go in terms of structural reforms, and inshallah towards inclusive and sustainable growth. But it's equally vital to be present here today, which is all around the moral economy of Pakistan. An economy which is founded on compassion, shared prosperity, and national responsibility. यहाँ already काफ़ी बातें हो चुकी हैं कि how we are very fortunate to be a giving nation. और World Giving Report का जिक्र किया गया कि we are 17th out of 101 countries, and in terms of the overall generosity that we have in the country, especially a lot of these funds being allocated to health and education. लेकिन मैं अगर शहरों के मुनासबत से जाऊँ, तो having lived and worked in Karachi overall for about 10 years, quite frankly, Karachi has shown the way. And if there's ever a city comparison around the world, I'm sure Karachi will be right at the top, while other parts of the country has been joining the cause and moving in the right direction. But I do want to acknowledge Karachi in terms of the leadership, when in terms to philanthropy overall, but also corporate philanthropy. यहाँ जिक्र किया गया कि corporate donations, notwithstanding some of the economic headwinds, और ये मैं चूँकि मैं corporate world से आया हूँ, ups and downs आती रहती हैं मालिक में, लेकिन I've always seen कि things with respect to corporate philanthropy has only been going in one direction, which is up, notwithstanding the vicissitudes of life and the economic cycles which the country has been going through. And आपने अभी डेटा present किया जो latest data है, but at least with respect to the public list companies, कि उसमें से the information which was available with me before I saw this report, कि 400 से ज़्यादा listed companies हैं, उनमें से 300 से ज़्यादा ने actually they have participated in some level of CSR activity, and roughly 1/3 of them have actually disclosed. तो मैं सिर्फ जो लोग डिस्क्लोज नहीं कर रहे, मेरी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट ये है कि ये दीन के लिए भी अच्छा है, दुनिया के लिए भी अच्छा है. So why keep it as a best kept secret? Come out and tell, right? Because you are sort of leading the way, you are showing the way, you are the champions. तो इसलिए इसमें because I do not believe in moving towards directed stuff or legislated stuff, because agar aapke sponsors or as the management you absolutely believe this is the right thing to do, I think that is the more sustainable way of going forward. And I had the privilege of leading an organization when I was in the private sector, which was at that North Star, sir, that you mentioned, with respect to having 1% of the corporate profitability going into the foundation and then going into the various social causes. And while I was there, the board of that organization decided, and rightly so, that we are going to up it to 1.5%. So देखिए ये already आपके पास इस किस्म की examples हैं, और जो the award winners today are to me are sort of leading the way, and I not only want to congratulate you, but I want to also say कि आप मिशले राह हैं, हमें सबको देखना चाहिए कि हम इसको आगे कैसे लेके चलें, because आपकी जो commitment है in terms of corporate giving, ये हमारा cornerstone है of our social development, and quite frankly an expression of our national identity. Now, here I do want to acknowledge Zafar Saab. Not only you are a corporate icon, I would say you are an officer and a gentleman. Aapki jo integrity hai and the way you are sort of leading this Center for Philanthropy is great way for you to give back to the country, and the way you should lead the corporate sector in Pakistan. But I do want to recognize the significant role that has been played by PCP in terms of dedicated leadership in advancing and institutionalizing the culture of giving in Pakistan. और आपका ये जो सर्टिफिकेशन प्रोसेस है, आपने यहाँ की लोगों की एफिशिएंसी की बात की, बट मेरे आपसे कुछ महीने पहले जिक्र हुआ था कि at times maybe some of the backlogs or whatever at the PCP end should also be considered, because we need efficiency at all ends. But everything that you're doing in terms of publishing the rankings, abhi jo evidence based research ki aapne baat ki, and I look forward to the reports that you have just mentioned, but you are acting as the clearing agent. That's what you're doing. You're bringing the donors, the people who are doing the philanthropy, and and putting that stamp of approval, and that is extremely important in terms of transparency, credibility, and structure to improve the effectiveness of philanthropy as we go forward. I do agree कि ये जो 25 बिलियन है इसको डबल किया जा सकता है और जाने करना चाहिए, लेकिन the way to move forward on that is create the best practices and request and ask everyone to come in terms of those best practices. अब मैं इसको थोड़ा सा इसको ज़रा वाइडन करना चाहता हूँ इस discussion को, because in the broader context, how the government, the business, and the civil society can come together, and there I would refer to the experience that I've had over the last few months in leading the Prime Minister's initiative to design and launch the social impact financing framework. और उसमें ये जो financing framework है, rather than focusing on generalized spending, to make sure that it's results based and impact linked financing. और इसमें you have to blend the public, the private, and the philanthropic capital into cohesive outcomes based structures. And that's where, as a concept, I do want to acknowledge the PCP leadership, because I have had the distinct pleasure and honor of having Menaz Akbar Sahiba and Shazia Amjad Sahiba, who, with their invaluable field experience and technical guidance in shaping the foundational design of the social impact financing framework. So I just wanted to mention here, because both of you are present here, and thank you for your help, assistance, support, guidance in coming up with that framework. और उसका मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ कि इसको सिर्फ एकेडमिक लेवल पे नहीं रखा गया है. One of the things which is going to come through very soon is the British Asian Trust, और उसने जो हमें सपोर्ट किया है in designing and launching Pakistan's first skills impact bond, जो NAFTEC के through हो रहा है. And this is very much to promote skills development and move towards sustainable development, so that we get away from the bank funding and other financing vehicles, and we go into the capital markets and raise financing for these social purposes as we go forward. I just want to conclude by once again congratulating all the award winners as champions of corporate philanthropy, and I do want to wish the PCP the very best in terms of sustaining the culture of giving and presenting best practices models for others to follow. And I'm sure will continue to be your reliable partner. आपने अभी काफ़ी बातें हुई हैं कि टैक्सेशन में और क्या हो सकता है और इंसेंटिवाइजेशन में और क्या हो सकता है. I give you our full commitment that we are committed to provide all necessary support as you lead the way in guiding, connecting and recognizing those who give with purpose and responsibility. Once again, I'm grateful for the invitation and wish you all the very best for the next year. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Mr. Zafar Rehan to present a souvenir to a distinguished chief guest, Mr. Mohammed Aurangzeb, Federal Minister for Finance and Revenue.